Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Monday night's live stream for StudentLoanJustice.org. My name is Alan Collins. I'm the founder of Student Loan Justice. If you're new to the group, welcome. We're really glad that you're here. We are the oldest and largest, by and large, only citizens group actually fighting for student loan justice. We've been around for 15 years now. We've been featured top story on 60 Minutes in the New York Times, on NPR, on PBS, Fox News, Vice News, Rolling Stone Magazine, Fast Company, CNBC, and many, many, many other outlets. So, folks, it's time to cancel all student loans. This lending system is failed. If you're sitting there freaking out about your student loans, you should know that 80% of all student loan borrowers will never be able to repay their loans. And that comes from pre-coronavirus statistics. The class of 2004, who graduated like 16 years ago, their default rate is like 40+%. And they were only borrowing a third of what people are borrowing today. It's a failed lending system, folks. And right now, the country needs economic stimulus. Now, we're seeing all manner of loan cancellation programs out there in the ether, from Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Joe Biden, Ariana Presley, many others in Congress. And I'm here to tell you that, unfortunately, all of those plans suck. They will never work. And they are completely wrong-headed in the first place. All of those other plans want to raise $1 trillion, $2 trillion, or more dollars in taxes to pay for loan cancellation. That right there should be a warning flag to you. Number one, Congress is not going to pass that legislation. They're not going to raise taxes, particularly now. And if they did pass legislation raising taxes, they certainly wouldn't use it to pay off people's student loans. So it's really a non-starter. Number two, the Department of Education, who would be put in charge of whatever loan for cancellation program they might start, would administer the programs in bad faith so that only a tiny fraction of the people who think they're getting their student loans canceled will actually get them canceled. You know, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is a great example. Only 0.8% of the people who thought they were getting their loans canceled through that actually are. So every other loan cancellation program out there is suck. And you can quote me on that. You know, we've been around, as I said, for 15 years. We've been featured on all those things. We've written books. We've broken stories. We've been living and breathing the student loan problem. So when we tell you that all the loan cancellation nonsense you see on TV is just that, nonsense, you should believe it. The president, however, can cancel all federally owned student loans tomorrow. And he can do it by executive order, and he doesn't need to raise any taxes. He doesn't need congressional approval, and it wouldn't add even 1 penny to the national debt. By executive order. This is what has to happen. Whether it's President Trump or the next president, the die is cast. This lending system is failed. It's done. You know, they suspended payments for 6 months, and they just on Sunday, President Trump issued an executive order extending that suspension until after the election, which he would be an idiot not to. But, you know, that's just one more nail in the coffin of this lending system, folks. Now, it could have a good ending. It could have a bad ending. The bad outcome, the sort of dystopian outcome, is where the student loan swamp, in other words, all the people that are profiting massively on this lending system, which includes the Department of Education, I should say, they could fight back, and they could say no changes, and they could start putting liens on people's property. They could start suing people. They could literally start arresting people. And believe it or not, that has already begun to happen. As of 5 years ago, federal marshals were rolling up on people's homes in this district in Texas and arresting them because they had student loans and they apparently failed to appear to a court hearing. So, as crazy as it sounds, that could happen, folks. We don't want that bad outcome. I have student loans. You have student loans. We don't want that outcome. This is an unconstitutional lending system, folks, and we do not have to put up with this shit. Pardon my French. You know, the Founding Fathers made it very clear in the Constitution. They demanded uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army in the Constitution. Not the Bill of Rights, the Constitution itself. And that has been stripped uniquely from student loans. Student loans are the only type of loan in our nation's history to be stripped of these fundamental uniform bankruptcy rights that every other borrower for every other type of loan enjoys. But it gets worse. Student loans are also the only loan in our country to be stripped of statutes of limitations. This is really the 1-2 punch. There are other consumer protections that have been taken away from certainly federal student loans. Truth in lending laws, fair debt collection practices, other stuff. But those first two, bankruptcy and statutes of limitations, are absolutely critical. They have given the lending system a green light to rob us blind, to turn a $20,000 loan into a $200,000 loan, and to chase us for the rest of our lives. This is not what the founders had in mind, folks. They are rolling over in their graves. If they are probably looking down on us. At least I believe they're looking down on us. And they're saying, how did our citizens get so weak? Why are they so afraid of their government? You know, if that was us, we would have thrown this lending system off of our backs before we even did the Boston Tea Party. The founders are on our side, folks. You know, John Adams said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword. The other is by debt. And this student loan catastrophe, this weaponized lending system, is exactly precisely what they were worried about. So, folks, we don't have to take this. You know, if you ever pay another dime into your student loans, number one, I think that's unwise at this point. Number two, it's very unpatriotic. You know, don't feed this big government beast. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, does not matter one iota. As a citizen, we owe it to not only ourselves, but to the tens or hundreds of millions of people to follow in our footsteps, to stand up to this indefensible, unconstitutional, viciously predatory, nationally threatening lending system. By the way, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and throw them out now. I'm going to keep this pretty short tonight. I will say we've got 552,000 signatures on our petition. That's really good. Right now, student loans are high on the radar of the White House and the White House administration. Now, this week, all of you, including you, I can see you. You, me, everybody watching this, everybody in our group, frankly, all the 55 million people in the country with student loans need to contact the White House. I don't know about the other 55 million, but certainly everybody on this group should do that. I'm asking you to do that. I'm begging you to do that. But really, you should just do it because it's the right thing to do. And these are your loans, and this is your problem. Right now, I'm telling you, we have a very narrow window of opportunity. Between now and the election, we can get certainly all federal loans gone by executive order. We can make that happen. And I should say, I can't say much more than this, but I will say that people at the very highest levels of the executive branch are now, right now, very well aware of our proposal. So now, and I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I can say that right now, as I'm talking to you, now is the right time to go to whitehouse.gov/contact and just write a little note to the people there, the president. Not that he's going to read it, but he might. Write to the president. Tell him to cancel all federal student loans by executive order. Now is the right time to do that, folks. Whether you like President Trump or whether you hate him, he is the president. He is the only person in the country right now with the executive authority to do what has to be done. So whether it's this president or the next, I would prefer this president, and I would prefer before this upcoming election. I would prefer to have this problem solved by November 3rd. I hope that you agree. Now, after November 3rd, we lose our window of opportunity, and who knows how long it's going to be before we get another shot. So time is of the essence. Contact the White House, whitehouse.gov/contact, and tell the president to cancel all federal student loans by executive order. Now, a lot of you, and this is a question we get a lot, might be wondering, what about private loans? What about Perkins loans? What about the older style FFELP loans? So that's about 15% of all student loans. The president cannot cancel those loans by executive order. What the president can do is issue another executive order calling on the Department of Education and its contractors to stand down, to stop opposing people with student loans in bankruptcy court. Now, bankruptcy is a horrible thing to have to do. Nobody even wants to think about it. But, the founders, as I said, the founders felt that bankruptcy protections were so important that they called for them ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army, ahead of the power to build a navy, coin currency, and create a judiciary in the Constitution. So having your bankruptcy rights restored for those other loans that will still exist once this executive order happens is very important. And to that end, there are two bills that we're fighting for right now: S1414, HR 2648. If you have those kinds of loans and you want to help, do everything in your power right now, before the end of the year, but do it today or tomorrow. Make it a point to get 1, 2, or more Republican senators to co-sponsor S1414. That is just extremely important if you want our bankruptcy rights returned. It's got to happen. So those are the two things. Contact the White House and get a Republican senator to co-sponsor the petition. Now, we are a grassroots group, folks. We are a small group. We don't have really almost any funding to speak of. We are citizens only. The only strength that we have is how hard you try. Now, we're doing well. We've been featured, just in the past few months, we've been featured on Fox News, CNBC, or sorry, not CNBC, past several months, CNBC, Rolling Stone, many other places, Minneapolis Progressive Radio, Coast to Coast radio program twice, and quite a few other things. But we need more effort from you. If you seriously want your loans canceled, you need to do one of those two things I just said. Contact the White House, tell the president to cancel the loans, get a Republican senator to co-sponsor S1414. Another thing, and I'm just throwing ideas out here, you can do any and all of these. Call a news organization and tell them to interview us or at least report on the petition. We'll do all the heavy lifting. You don't have to do the talking. We can do the talking, but you have to contact a news organization. You right there. I don't care if it's NPR, Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, or Rachel Maddow. Anywhere in between also is fine. We will do all the heavy lifting on that, folks, but you have to set them up so we can knock them down. Because it doesn't work that well when we contact them and say, hey, you should really interview us about our petition. It just doesn't really, for some reason, it's just the way it goes. A third-party referral works. So you can call, contact, email. I recommend don't doing Twitter because nobody reads that, really. Find an email address for maybe a news tips hotline for your local news station. Submit a story to anybody, magazine, newspaper, radio, it doesn't matter. Tell them to interview us. Give them our phone number, 202-594-1120. Give them our email address, justice@studentloanjustice.org. Set them up, and we will knock them down. The media should be our friend right now. And unfortunately, right now, the corporate / mainstream media, with a couple of exceptions, have been very reluctant to call on this, to report on our petition. Now, I think the student loan swamp, has a lot to do with that. Believe me, folks, we have opposition. But we have 55 million people in the country with student loans or who are co-signed on them. And we have 44 million out of those 55 million are losing sleep over their loans. They should be on our side. So right now we've got like 600,000 people who are in our group on our petition. If every one of those people did what I just said, any one of those things, I think we'd be almost home free. So it starts with you. You have no idea how important you are, as unlikely as that may seem. So you've got a little bit of a duty here. We are the pioneers on this. We are the tip of the spear. So you need to punch a little above your weight. You've got to pull a little bit more than your weight. You've got to make that extra effort to get these loans gone. So I've just mentioned 3 things you can do, right? I'm not even going to repeat them. You can rewind if you didn't hear them the first time. And don't be limited to that. We're all not idiots. We all went to college at least. So hopefully we're slightly smarter than the average bear. We can think for ourselves. We're not in a position where we can micromanage your every move. We just can't do it. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the resources. I've given you 3 ideas for how to get that done. But, whatever you can do, do it. Those 3 things I just said are the most effective. But if you've got a better idea, if you've worked with Congress in the past, you know how government works. If you've got special skills, talents, abilities, networks, we love art. We love great artwork that conveys the point that this is a failed lending system and it's got to be put to rest. That would be fine too. So I'm not going to belabor the point. In fact, I'm going to keep this kind of short tonight. I was hoping to go only 10 minutes, so we've gone over 16 now. So I will leave it there at that. But folks, let me just leave you with this. I have never been so encouraged and optimistic in the 15 plus years we've been doing this. We've never been in a better position. But you need to help. Your country needs you on this, as corny as it may sound. So get those things done, folks. Maybe the last thing I'll say is it would not hurt if you were to boost our petition too. So if you go to the petition, click on it, you'll see something that says promote this petition. You can pay a few bucks, and change.org, none of the money goes to us, by the way. Change.org will promote the petition. It'll get viewed like hundreds of times. For a $25 thing, they will advertise it like 625 times, which is not bad. About a third of our signatures have come through people boosting the petition. So please do that. Okay, folks, it's Monday night. Let's make this the week to remember. Let's make this the week that you got off your ass and started to take this seriously and started to see that, yes, we do have a massive muscle to flex. You are the tip of the spear. Take that seriously and do what you need to do. Have a great night. Let's have a great week. God bless and Godspeed.